My beloved child, come close to me. Let the weight of this long day begin to lift from your shoulders as you settle into this quiet moment. I am here with you now, just as I have always been, waiting patiently for you to find rest in my presence. The world outside may be filled with noise and worry, but here, in this sacred space we share, there is only peace. I know the burdens you carry. I see the thoughts that race through your mind when you lay your head upon your pillow, the concerns that keep your eyes wide open when your body longs for rest, the bills that need paying, the relationships that need mending, the fears about tomorrow that seem to grow larger in the darkness. I understand, my dear one, because I too walked this earth. I felt the weight of human worry, the pull of earthly concerns, but tonight I want to tell you a story. Not just any story, but one that will wash over you like gentle waves upon a peaceful shore. Tonight, I want to share with you the ocean of divine calm, a place where miracles flow as naturally as the tide, where healing comes not through striving but through surrendering, where sleep comes not through forcing but through trusting. As I speak to you, imagine my voice as a soft breeze that carries away your tensions. Feel my presence as a warm blanket that covers not just your body, but your very soul. You are safe here with me. You are loved beyond measure. You are held in arms that will never let you go. Close your eyes if you wish, or keep them soft and unfocused. Let your breathing slow and deepen. There is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. This is your time to rest, to be renewed, to be reminded of the love that surrounds you always. The story I'm about to tell you happened long ago, yet it happens again tonight, here in your heart, as real and as powerful as it was on that first day by the sea. Let your mind drift now to a place where water meets sky, where the eternal touches the temporal. I remember that evening so clearly, as if it were unfolding before me once again. The Sea of Galilee stretched out before us, its waters reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. My disciples had been with me all day, listening to my teachings, watching as I spoke to the crowds who had gathered. Their faces showed the weariness that comes from serving others, the kind of tiredness that settles deep in the bones. Peter was the first to speak, his weathered hands rubbing his eyes. "Master," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion, "we have been up since before dawn. The people, they keep coming, and we want to serve them, but..." He paused, looking out over the water. "But we are so very tired." I placed my hand on his shoulder, feeling the tension there, the way his muscles held the stress of the day. "No, my friend," I said softly. "I know exactly how you feel," and I did. The physical body I had taken on new fatigue, just as yours does. I had felt the ache in my feet from walking dusty roads, the strain in my voice from speaking to multitudes, the weight of carrying not just my own needs, but the needs of everyone who came to me. John, the youngest among us, sat down heavily on a large stone near the water's edge. "Sometimes I wonder," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "if we're making any real difference. There are so many people, so much pain, so much need. How can we possibly help them all?" I sat beside him, and as I did, I felt the familiar stirring of compassion in my heart. This was the same compassion I feel for you right now, dear one, as you struggle with your own questions about purpose and meaning. The same gentle understanding that reaches out to you when you wonder if your efforts matter, if your prayers are heard, if your life has significance. "Watch," I said to them, pointing out across the water. "Do you see how the waves come to shore? Each one is different, yet each one is part of the same ocean. Each wave touches the sand and changes it, even if only in the smallest way. You are like those waves, my friends. Each act of kindness, each word of love, each moment of service, they all matter. They all change the shore of someone's life. As I spoke these words, I noticed something in the distance. The sky, which had been clear and peaceful, was beginning to change. Dark clouds were gathering on the horizon, moving toward us with surprising speed. The wind, which had been gentle and warm, was picking up, sending ripples across the water's surface. But I was not alarmed. I knew something my disciples did not yet understand. I knew that sometimes the greatest peace comes not from the absence of storms, but from the presence of the one who can calm them. Sometimes the deepest rest comes not when everything is easy, but when we learn to trust even in the midst of difficulty. Come, I said, standing and brushing the dust from my robes. Let us cross to the other side of the lake. There are people there who need us, and the evening is still young. The disciples looked at each other with concern. They could see the approaching storm as clearly as I could. They understood the dangers of being on the water when the weather turned. But they also knew something about following me by now, that sometimes the path I led them on didn't make sense to their logical minds, but it always led to something beautiful. As we made our way to the boat, I could feel their anxiety growing. Their steps were quick, their conversations hushed. They were already planning for the worst, already imagining the struggle ahead. But I walked with perfect calm, my pace unhurried, my heart at peace. This, my beloved, is what I want to teach you tonight. This is the first miracle I want to share with you, the miracle of perfect peace in the midst of gathering storms. You see, peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is not a guarantee that life will be easy or that problems will not come. Peace is something much deeper, much more powerful than that. Peace is the knowing deep in your soul, deeper than your thoughts or your fears, that you are never alone. Peace is the understanding that no matter what storm may be approaching in your life, no matter what difficulties you may be facing, you are held by love that is stronger than any wind, deeper than any wave. Feel that peace settling over you now, like a gentle mist from the sea. Your breathing is becoming deeper, more relaxed. The tension in your shoulders is beginning to melt away. Let your body sink deeper into rest as we continue this journey. Together, the boat was old but sturdy, its wooden planks weathered by countless journeys across these familiar waters. As we climbed aboard, I could feel the disciples' nervous energy. They moved with quick, efficient motions, securing ropes and preparing the sail. Their years of experience as fishermen taking over even as their minds worried about what lay ahead. "Look at those clouds," Thomas murmured, his eyes fixed on the darkening sky. "They're moving fast, Master. Perhaps we should wait until morning." I smiled at his concern, understanding his desire for safety, his practical wisdom. But I also knew something that Thomas was still learning, that sometimes the very thing we fear becomes the pathway to the miracle we need. "My friend," I said, settling myself in the stern of the boat, "do you remember the story of the Israelites crossing the Red Sea? They had to step into the water before it parted. They had to trust before they could see the miracle." I patted the seat beside me. Tonight, we step into trust. Tonight, we learn that faith is not about knowing what will happen. It's about knowing who is with us when it does. As we pushed off from the shore, I felt a familiar sensation wash over me. It was the same feeling I had experienced so many times before, the perfect balance between being fully human and fully divine. My human body felt the cool spray of the water, the gentle rocking of the boat, the freshness of the evening air. But my spirit was connected to something infinitely larger, infinitely more powerful. The disciples began to row, their strong arms pulling us steadily away from the shore. With each stroke, we moved further from the safety of dry land and closer to the storm that was approaching. But I was not afraid. I was filled with anticipation, knowing that what my friends saw as danger, I saw as opportunity. "Tell us a story, Master," said Andrew, his voice hopeful. "Something to help us think about other things." I laughed softly, understanding his desire for distraction. "Very well," I said. "But let me tell you a story about exactly what we're doing right now." I shifted in my seat, making myself more comfortable, and began to speak in the gentle, rhythmic tone that had always helped people relax. "Once upon a time, there was a little lamb who lived in a beautiful meadow. Every day, the lamb would graze peacefully, surrounded by soft grass and clear streams. Life was simple and safe and predictable. The disciples found themselves drawn into the story, their rowing becoming more relaxed, their breathing deeper. This is the power of story. My dear one, it takes us out of our immediate concerns and into a place where deeper truths can be revealed. But one day," I continued, "the shepherd came to the little lamb and said, 'Come, we must cross the dark valley to reach the high mountain pasture.' The lamb was frightened. The valley looked dangerous, full of shadows and unknown paths. 'Why can't we stay here?' asked the lamb. 'This meadow is safe and comfortable.' As I spoke, I noticed that the wind was indeed picking up. The first drops of rain were beginning to fall, and the waves were growing larger. But instead of feeling concern, I felt a deep sense of purpose. This was exactly what needed to happen. This was part of the plan. The shepherd smiled at the little lamb's fear. I went on and said, "My dear one, the meadow is beautiful, but it is not your destination. The mountain pasture is richer, greener, more wonderful than anything you can imagine. But to get there, you must trust me through the valley. You must believe that I will not let you get lost, that I will not let you come to harm." Peter looked up from his rowing, understanding beginning to dawn in his eyes. "And did the lamb trust the shepherd?" "At first, no," I said, smiling. "The lamb argued and worried and tried to convince the shepherd to find another way. But eventually, the lamb realized something important. The lamb realized that the shepherd had never led him astray before. Every time the shepherd had asked the lamb to follow, it had led to something good: better grass, cleaner water, safer sleeping places. The rain was coming harder now, and the disciples were beginning to row more urgently, but I remained calm, my voice steady and soothing. So the lamb took a deep breath and said, "All right, shepherd, I will follow you. I will trust you through the valley." I paused in my story, letting the words settle into their hearts. And do you know what happened next? "What, Master?" several voices asked at once. The lamb discovered that the dark valley was not as frightening as it had seemed. Yes, there were shadows, and yes, there were unfamiliar sounds. But the shepherd was right there beside the lamb every step of the way. And more than that, the lamb began to notice that the shepherd's presence made everything different. The shadows became mysterious rather than scary. The unfamiliar sounds became adventure rather than danger. Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the storm clouds that were now directly overhead. The boat was beginning to rock more violently, and I could see the concern growing on my disciples' faces. But I continued my story, my voice carrying over the wind. When they finally reached the mountain pasture, the lamb was amazed. The grass was indeed richer, the water clearer, the view more beautiful than anything he had ever seen. But the most amazing thing was what the lamb had learned about himself during the journey. He had learned that he was braver than he thought, stronger than he imagined, more capable of trust than he ever knew. I looked around at each of my disciples, seeing the connection forming in their minds. And most importantly, I said, the lamb learned that the shepherd's love was not just for the easy times, not just for the safe meadow. The shepherd's love was big enough for the dark valley, strong enough for the difficult journey, constant enough for every step of the way. As the last words of the story left my lips, I felt the familiar tiredness settling over me. Not the tiredness of worry or stress, but the gentle tiredness that comes at the end of a full day, the kind that makes sleep feel like a gift rather than a necessity. I stretched out in the stern of the boat, using a cushion as a pillow, and closed my eyes. The storm was building around us, but I was at perfect peace. I knew that sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply being able to rest in the midst of chaos. Feel yourself sinking deeper into that same peaceful rest, your body heavy with the kind of tiredness that leads to healing sleep. Your breathing is becoming slower and deeper now, each exhale releasing more tension, each inhale bringing deeper peace. As I lay there in the stern of the boat, feeling the gentle rocking motion beneath me, I entered into that sacred space between sleeping and waking, that place where the human part of me could rest while the divine part of me remained fully aware. This is the same space I want to invite you into tonight, my beloved. This is the place where miracles happen, where healing occurs, where peace that passes understanding becomes as real as the breath in your lungs. The disciples continued rowing, but I could feel their growing anxiety as the storm intensified around us. The wind howled across the water, and waves began to crash over the sides of the boat. But even as the physical storm raged, I was experiencing something entirely different. I was entering into what I call the ocean of divine commonplace that exists not in the absence of storms, but in the heart of the one who created both the storms and the peace that can still them. In this place, I could feel the connection to my Father that had never been broken, would never be broken. I could sense the vast love that held not just me, but every person who had ever lived or ever would live. I could feel the healing power that flowed through me, the same power that wants to flow through you right now as you listen to my voice. Let me tell you what I experienced in that ocean of divine calm, because it is a place that belongs to you. 2. It is your inheritance, your birthright, your home. First, I felt the presence of perfect love, not the kind of love that depends on circumstances or behavior, but the kind of love that simply is eternal, unchanging, unconditional. This love was not just around me, it was in me, through me, as me. It was the very substance of my being, the foundation of my existence. And in that love, there was no room for fear, no space for worry, no place for anxiety. This is the love that surrounds you right now, dear one. As you lie there listening to my voice, this same love is holding you, supporting you, healing you. It doesn't matter what you've done or haven't done, what you've accomplished or failed to accomplish. This love is not based on your performance. It is based on your existence, on the simple fact that you are. Second, I felt the power of perfect peace. This was not the peace that comes from having all your problems solved, but the peace that comes from knowing that you are held by someone who is bigger than any problem. It was the peace that comes from understanding that your value, your security, your future do not depend on circumstances, but on the unchanging love of the one who created you. In that peace, I could feel my human body relaxing completely. Every muscle, every nerve, every cell was being bathed in this healing calm. The tension that had accumulated from the day's activities was melting away like ice in warm water. My breathing became deeper and more rhythmic. My heartbeat slowed to a gentle, steady rhythm that matched the eternal rhythm of divine love. This is what I want for you tonight. This is the healing I want to pour into your body, your mind, your spirit. Let that same peace wash over you now. Feel it starting at the top of your head, like warm oil being poured over you. Let it flow down through your forehead, relaxing the muscles around your eyes, releasing the tension in your jaw. Let it flow down through your neck and shoulders, melting away the stress you carry there. Third, I felt the presence of perfect wisdom. In the ocean of divine calm, I could see the bigger picture, the larger story that was being written. I could see how this storm, which seemed so threatening to my disciples, was actually part of a beautiful plan. It was an opportunity for them to see my power, to experience my love, to grow in their faith. What looked like danger was actually disguise for a miracle. This is true for you too, my beloved. The storms in your life, the difficulties, the challenges, the things that keep you awake at night, they are not punishments or mistakes. They are opportunities for you to experience my love in a deeper way, to discover strength you didn't know you had, to find peace that is not dependent on circumstances. As I rested in this divine calm, I became aware of something beautiful happening. The longer I stayed in this place of perfect peace, the more it began to affect the physical world around me. The ocean itself began to respond to the presence of divine love. The waves, which had been growing larger and more violent, began to sense something larger than themselves. You see, this is one of the most important things I want you to understand. Peace is not just a feeling. Peace is a power. When you truly enter into the ocean of divine calm, when you allow yourself to be held by perfect love, it doesn't just change you, it changes everything around you. Your family feels it. Your workplace feels it. Your community feels it. Even the very air you breathe carries the fragrance of this peace. As I lay there, completely surrendered to this divine calm, I began to feel the familiar stirring of compassion for my disciples. I could sense their fear, their struggle, their desperate efforts to control a situation that seemed beyond their control. My heart went out to them, not with pity, but with the same love I feel for you when you are struggling, when you are afraid, when you are trying so hard to manage things that feel overwhelming. But I also knew something they didn't know yet. I knew that their struggle was about to become their victory. Their fear was about to become their faith. Their desperation was about to become their testimony. The very storm that threatened to destroy them was about to become the stage for a miracle they would never forget. This is always how it works in the ocean of divine calm. What the world sees as problem, heaven sees as opportunity. What looks like ending, God sees as beginning. What feels like death, divine love knows is actually birth. I began to feel the stirring of power within me, not the kind of power that dominates or controls, but the kind of power that heals, that restores, that brings order out of chaos. It was the same power that had spoken the universe into existence. The same power that had breathed life into the first human being. The same power that would one day raise me from the dead. But this power was not separate from the peace I was experiencing. It was the peace when you are truly at rest in divine love, when you are truly surrendered to the ocean of divine calm, You become a conduit for miracles. You become a channel through which heaven touches earth, through which the impossible becomes possible, through which healing flows like a river. I could feel this power building within me, not like pressure or stress, but like a gentle river swelling with spring rain. It was time to share this peace with my beloved disciples. It was time to show them that the ocean of divine calm was not just something I could experience, but something they could experience too. Feel that same power stirring within you now, the gentle power of perfect peace, the healing power of divine love. Your body is becoming heavier, more relaxed, sinking deeper into the ocean of calm. Let your mind become as still as the surface of a lake at dawn, reflecting only peace, only love, only the presence of the divine. The moment had come. I could feel it as clearly as you can feel your heartbeat. The perfect moment when heaven was ready to touch earth, when the invisible was ready to become visible, when the ocean of divine calm was ready to manifest in the physical world. I opened my eyes slowly, and even in the midst of the storm, I smiled. My disciples were still rowing frantically, their faces tense with effort and fear. Water was splashing into the boat, and they were working desperately to keep us afloat. But I was completely calm, completely at peace, completely confident in what was about to happen. "Master," Peter shouted over the wind. "Wake up, we're going to drown." I sat up slowly, and as I did, I felt the fullness of divine power flowing through me. It was like being filled with liquid light, with perfect love, with the creative force of the universe itself. But this power was not overwhelming or frightening. It was the most natural thing in the world, as natural as breathing, as natural as a flower blooming in the spring. I looked around at my disciples with infinite compassion. These dear men who had given up everything to follow me, who had served faithfully and loved deeply, were experiencing the very human emotion of fear. And their fear was not wrong, it was natural, understandable, even appropriate given what they could see with their physical eyes. But I wanted to show them something their physical eyes could not see. I wanted to introduce them to the ocean of divine calm that was always available to them, always surrounding them, always ready to bring peace in the midst of any storm. I stood up in the boat, and as I did, I felt myself connecting even more deeply with the divine power that flowed through me. I was not separate from this power. I was one with it, united with it, expressing it. This is the same power that lives in you, beloved. This is the same peace that is your birthright, your inheritance, your true nature. I raised my hands toward the stormy sky, and from the depths of my being, from the ocean of divine calm that had no beginning and no end, I spoke with the voice of absolute authority, absolute love, absolute peace. Peace, be still. The words that came from my lips were not just sounds, they were living power, creative force, divine love made manifest. They carried within them the same energy that had created the stars, the same love that had formed the earth, the same peace that had been there before the foundation of the world. And immediately, not gradually, not slowly, but immediately, everything changed. The wind, which had been howling with such fury, suddenly stopped. Not slowed down, not diminished, but stopped completely, as if it had never been blowing. All the waves, which had been crashing over the sides of the boat, became perfectly still. The water became like glass, reflecting the stars that were now visible in the clearing sky. But the most beautiful part was not the external change. The most beautiful part was watching my disciples' faces as they witnessed this miracle. I saw fear transform into wonder, anxiety melt into amazement, desperation become devotion. In that moment, they understood something about me they had never understood before. They saw that I was not just their teacher, their friend, their leader. I was the very embodiment of the peace they had been seeking all their lives. "Who is this?" Thomas whispered, his voice filled with awe. "Even the wind and waves obey him." I smiled at their wonder, understanding their amazement. But I also wanted them to understand something even more important. I wanted them to know that this miracle was not just about my power, it was about their inheritance. This peace, this authority, this connection to the divine, it was not meant to be mine alone. It was meant to be shared, to be passed on, to become the birthright of everyone who chose to believe. I sat back down in the boat, and as I did, I felt the familiar tiredness washing over me again. But this was not the tiredness of exhaustion or depletion. This was the holy tiredness that comes after love has been fully expressed, after power has been used for healing, after peace has been shared with those who need it most. "My dear friends," I said softly, my voice carrying clearly across the now still water, "do you see what just happened here? Do you understand what you have witnessed?" They looked at me with eyes wide with wonder, still trying to process what they had experienced. The storm that had seemed so threatening just moments before was now completely gone. The sea that had been so turbulent was now perfectly calm. The night that had seemed so dark was now filled with starlight. "Master John," said, his voice barely above a whisper, "how did you do that?" I leaned forward, wanting them to understand this crucial truth. "I did not do it alone," I said. "I did it from the place of perfect peace, the place where fear cannot exist, the place where love is the only reality. I did it from the ocean of divine calm that is always available to anyone who chooses to enter it." I paused, letting my words sink into their hearts. And this same place, this same peace, this same power, it is available to you too. It is available to anyone who learns to rest in divine love, to trust in the goodness of the Father, to believe that they are held by arms that will never let them go. As we sat there in the perfect stillness, I felt the presence of my Father surrounding us like a warm embrace. I could sense the angels rejoicing over this moment, celebrating not just the miracle of the calmed storm, but the deeper miracle of hearts being opened, faith being strengthened, love being revealed. This, my beloved, is what I want you to experience. Tonight, this is the miracle I want to perform in your life. Not necessarily a dramatic external change, but the much more important internal transformation. I want to speak peace. Be still into the storms of your heart, the turbulence of your mind, the anxiety of your spirit. Right now, as you listen to my voice, I am speaking those same words over you. Peace, be still. Peace to your worried thoughts. Peace to your restless heart. Peace to your weary body. Peace to your uncertain future. Peace to your painful past. Peace to your overwhelming present. Feel that peace settling over you now, just as it settled over that lake so long ago. Feel the storms of your life becoming calm, the waves of your anxiety becoming still. You are safe, you are loved, you are held by the same power that calmed the wind and waves. Rest deeper now in this perfect stillness, this divine calm. Your body is heavy with peaceful tiredness, your mind quiet with holy rest. As we continue our journey together, feel yourself drifting deeper into the embrace of perfect love, perfect peace, perfect rest. After the miracle of the calmed storm, we continued our journey across the now peaceful waters. The boat glided, silently through the stillness, and I could feel the change that had taken place in my disciples' hearts. The fear was gone, replaced by a deep sense of wonder and trust. They rode with quiet confidence now, their movements smooth and rhythmic, their faces peaceful in the starlight. As we approached the far shore, I felt a familiar stirring in my heart. There were people waiting for us. They're people who had been struggling with storms of their own. People who needed to experience the same peace that had just filled our boat. This is always how it works, beloved. When we receive healing, when we experience peace, when we discover the love that never fails, we become channels for that same healing to flow to others. The shore we were approaching was not just a physical destination, it was what I like to call the harbor of hearts. A place where weary souls could find rest, where broken spirits could be restored, where anyone carrying the burden of life's storms could discover the peace that passes understanding. As we pulled the boat up onto the sandy beach, I could see figures emerging from the shadows, people who had been waiting, people who had heard that I was coming, people who had needs that only divine love could meet. Some walked with difficulty, their bodies carrying the weight of illness or injury. Others moved with the heavy steps of those whose hearts were broken, whose spirits were crushed by life's disappointments. But what struck me most was not their pain, it was their hope. Despite everything they had been through, despite all the reasons they had to give up, they had come. They had made the effort to be here, to wait for me, to believe that somehow, some way, their lives could be different. This is the miracle of the human heart, my beloved. This is what makes me love humanity so deeply. No matter how dark the night, no matter how fierce the storm, no matter how overwhelming the circumstances, there is always that spark of hope, that whisper of faith, that belief that love is stronger than everything that opposes it. I stepped out of the boat onto the shore, and immediately I felt the familiar surge of compassion that always filled me when I encountered human need. But this compassion was not just sympathy or pity, it was active love, healing power, divine grace made manifest in the physical world. The first person to approach me was an elderly woman, her back bent with age, her eyes clouded with cataracts. She moved slowly, feeling her way carefully across the uneven ground. When she finally reached me, she fell to her knees, her weathered hands reaching out to touch the hem of my robe. "Master," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, "I have been waiting for you. I have been praying for you to come. I can barely see anymore, and I am so tired, so very tired. But I knew, somehow I knew, that if I could just touch you, if I could just be in your presence, everything would be different." I knelt down beside her, taking her worn hands in mine. As I did, I felt the familiar flow of healing power, the same power that had calmed the storm. Now focusing on this precious daughter of the Most High. But more than the physical healing, I felt the deeper healing that was needed, the healing of a heart that had carried too much sorrow, a spirit that had endured too much pain. "Dear one," I said softly, "look at me." She lifted her head, and as she did, I saw the miracle beginning to happen. The cloudiness in her eyes began to clear, but more importantly, the hopelessness in her heart began to transform into joy. She could see me clearly now, but she was seeing much more than my physical form. She was seeing the love that had pursued her all her life, the peace that had been waiting for her to claim it, the hope that had never given up on her. "I can see," she exclaimed, her voice filled with wonder. "I can see. But Master, the most amazing thing is not that I can see with my eyes, it's that I can see with my heart. I can see how much you love me. I can see that I am not forgotten, not abandoned, not alone. This is the miracle I want you to experience tonight, beloved. This is the healing that is available to you right now. Perhaps your eyes can see clearly, but your heart has been clouded by pain, by disappointment, by the accumulated weariness of life. Tonight, I want to clear that cloudiness. I want you to see yourself as I see you, precious, beloved, chosen, never alone. As word spread along the shore that I had arrived, more people began to gather. They came from all directions, carrying their burdens, their pain, their desperate hopes. There was a man whose hands shook uncontrollably, a woman whose heart was broken by the loss of her child, a young person whose mind was tormented by anxiety and fear. But as each person approached me, as each one encountered the ocean of divine calm that I carried within me, something beautiful happened. They began to find not just healing for their specific problems, but something much more precious. They found peace. They found the kind of deep, abiding peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, that isn't threatened by difficulties, that remains constant regardless of what storms may come. I remember one young man in particular. He approached me with the restless energy of someone who had never known true rest. His eyes darted constantly, his hands fidgeted, his whole body seemed to vibrate with anxiety and stress. "Master," he said, his words tumbling over each other in his haste to speak, "I can't sleep. I haven't slept properly in months. My mind races constantly, thinking about all the things I need to do, all the things that could go wrong, all the responsibilities I carry. I'm exhausted, but I can't rest. I'm tired, but I can't sleep. Please, if you can help me, if you can give me peace." I placed my hand on his shoulder, and immediately I felt the tension there, the way his muscles were knotted with stress, the way his whole body was holding on to worry like a clenched fist. But I also felt the divine love flowing through me, the same love that had calmed the storm. Now focusing on calming the storm in this young man's heart. "Come with me," I said, leading him a little apart from the crowd. "Sit here beside me on this rock and let me tell you something that will change your life." He sat down, his legs still bouncing with nervous energy, his eyes still darting around. But I could see that he was trying to listen, trying to open his heart to whatever I might say. "My dear friend," I began, my voice gentle and soothing, "do you know what sleep really is? It's not just the absence of wakefulness. It's an act of trust. When you lie down to sleep, you are essentially saying, 'I trust that the world will continue to exist without my constant vigilance. I trust that the universe will not fall apart if I am not awake to manage it. I trust that I can let go of control and rest in the care of someone greater than myself.'" I paused, watching his face as these words sank in. I could see the recognition dawning in his eyes. The understanding that his sleeplessness was not just a physical problem, it was a spiritual one. "You see," I continued, "true rest comes not from the absence of problems, but from the presence of peace. And true peace comes not from having everything under control, but from trusting in the one who is always in control, even when we are not. Feel that trust settling into your own heart now, that permission to let go, to rest, to trust that you are held by love that never sleeps, never fails, never lets go. Your breathing is becoming deeper and more peaceful now, your body heavy, with the blessed tiredness that leads to healing sleep." As the night deepened around us on that peaceful shore, I gathered all the people who had come to me. They sat in a circle around me, their faces illuminated by the soft light of the stars and the gentle glow that seemed to emanate from our gathering. The earlier urgency had melted away, replaced by a profound sense of peace and belonging. Looked around at each face, the elderly woman whose sight had been restored, the young man whose anxiety was beginning to ease, the mother whose broken heart was finding comfort, the father whose burdens felt lighter. Each person carried their own story, their own pain, their own need for healing. But in this moment, they were all connected by something deeper than their individual circumstances. They were connected by love. "My beloved friends," I said, my voice carrying easily across the still night air, "I want to share with you the most beautiful song in all creation. It is a song that has been sung since the beginning of time. A song that is sung over you every night as you sleep. A song that will continue long after the stars have grown dim." I began to hum softly, a melody that seemed to come from the very heart of heaven itself. It was simple yet profound, gentle yet powerful, ancient yet eternally new. As I hummed, I could feel the peace deepening around us, settling over everyone like a warm blanket on a cold night. "This," I said, pausing in my humming, "is the eternal lullaby. It is the song that my Father sings over his children every night. It is the song that the angels sing as they watch over you while you sleep. It is the song of perfect love, perfect peace, perfect rest." I began to sing the words that came to me, words that seemed to flow directly from the ocean of divine calm. "Sleep, my beloved. Sleep in my arms, safe from all worry, safe from all harm. I am beside you, I'll never depart. Rest now in peace, rest now, my heart." As I sang, something miraculous happened. The people around me began to relax in ways I had never seen before. The tension that had been etched in their faces began to smooth away. The worry lines that had been carved by years of stress began to soften. The restless energy that had driven them to seek me out began to transform into peaceful stillness. The young man who had struggled with sleeplessness found his eyes growing heavy. The woman whose heart had been broken by loss felt a gentle healing beginning to take place in the deepest parts of her being. The elderly woman whose sight had been restored saw, not just with her physical eyes, but with the eyes of her heart, understanding for the first time the depth of the love that surrounded her. "You see," I said, my voice becoming even softer, even more gentle, "this lullaby is not just for children. It is for anyone who has forgotten how to rest, anyone who has lost the ability to trust, anyone who needs to be reminded that they are held by arms that will never let them go." I continued singing, adding verses that spoke to the specific needs of each person present. "Sleep, worried mind. Let go of your fears. I've counted each sorrow. I've numbered your tears. Tomorrow will come with its own gift of grace. Tonight, you can rest in my loving embrace. Sleep, broken heart. Let healing begin. I'm mending each piece from without and within. The pain that you carry, I carry it too. My love is the balm that will make all things new. Sleep, weary body, let tension release. I'm filling each cell with my perfect peace. From the top of your head to the soles of your feet, my healing is flowing, my work is complete." As I sang these words, I could feel the power of the eternal lullaby working its gentle magic. But this was not the dramatic, sudden miracle of the calm storm. This was the quieter, deeper miracle of hearts being healed, souls being restored, spirits being renewed. The young man's leg had stopped bouncing. His hands were no longer fidgeting. His breathing had become deep and regular. For the first time in months, he was experiencing true peace, true rest, true freedom from the anxiety that had plagued him. "Master," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "I can feel it. I can feel the peace. It's like someone has turned off the noise in my head. The racing thoughts, the constant worry, it's all becoming quiet." I smiled at him with infinite tenderness. "That is the gift of the eternal lullaby, my friend. It is the gift of divine peace, the peace that guards your heart and mind, the peace that enables you to rest even in the midst of an uncertain world." As the night continued, I found myself telling them about the nature of this peace, helping them understand that what they were experiencing was not just a temporary feeling, but a permanent reality that would always be available to them. "This peace," I explained, "is not something you have to earn or achieve. It is not something that depends on your circumstances or your behavior. It is your birthright as a child of the Most High. It is woven into the very fabric of your being, as natural to you as breathing, as essential to you as your heartbeat." I gestured toward the still waters that reflected the starlight. "Just as this lake is naturally calm when the wind is not stirring it up, your heart is naturally peaceful when the storms of worry and fear are not agitating it. The peace is not something foreign that has to be added to you. It is something that is already there, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to be experienced." One by one, the people around me began to drift off to sleep, right there on the shore under the canopy of stars. But this was not ordinary sleep. This was the sleep of the beloved, the sleep of those who know they are watched over, protected, cherished beyond measure. As I watched them sleeping, I felt the familiar stirring of love in my heart. These precious souls who had come to me carrying such heavy burdens were now resting in perfect peace. Their faces, which had been marked by worry and pain, were now serene and beautiful. Their breathing, which had been shallow and anxious, was now deep and peaceful. "This is what I want for you tonight, beloved. This is the gift I want to give you, not just a good night's sleep, but the deep, abiding peace that comes from knowing you are loved beyond measure, held beyond fear, cherished beyond understanding." Feel yourself joining them now in this perfect rest, this divine peace. Your body is becoming heavier, your mind quieter, your heart more peaceful. As our journey together draws to a close, feel the eternal lullaby settling deep into your heart, becoming part of your very being. My beloved child, as I finish this story and this time together, I want you to know that everything I have shared with you tonight is as real and as available to you now as it was to those disciples on the Sea of Galilee, as it was to those precious souls on that peaceful shore. The ocean of divine calm is not just a beautiful metaphor, it is a spiritual reality that surrounds you always. The peace that calmed the storm is the same peace that can calm the storms in your life. The love that healed the sick is the same. Love that can heal your heart, your mind, your body, your spirit. As you drift off to sleep tonight, remember that you are not alone. I am here with you, just as I promised I would always be. The eternal lullaby is being sung over you, the same song that has been sung over every child of God since the beginning of time. You are safe, you are loved, you are held by arms that will never let you go. Let go of the worries of today. Release the fears about tomorrow. Trust that you are being cared for by a love that never fails, never falters, never forgets. Sleep now in the ocean of divine calm, and wake tomorrow refreshed, renewed, and ready to share this peace with a world that desperately needs it. Rest well, my beloved, rest in me. And if you've found comfort in this story, if you've experienced even a moment of peace, Perhaps you might share this gift with someone else who needs it. Sometimes the greatest miracle we can offer is simply letting others know they are not alone in their struggles. That peace is possible. That love is real. Sweet dreams, dear one. Until we meet again in the place where all hearts find rest.